Okay, today's topic. This one's really interesting to me. So I've been doing quite a bit of research on this topic, but recently Dr. K was on a podcast talking about this, and I wanted to discuss it with Pri.
Anytime you have a human being who is suffering in some way and they cannot find connection with another human being, they cannot find compassion with another human being, that person is going to feel isolated. And if you look at the statistics on suicide, it's very interesting. So the number one thing that correlates with male suicide is not depression, and this is super scary. There's one study I saw recently that suggests that 50% of men who kill themselves have no history or evidence of mental illness. And this, I believe the statistic in my clinical practice.
To be clear, it doesn't mean they don't have mental illness. It means that they may have never seen a shrink or psychiatrist to be documented for it.
Because I know what depression looks like. I know what bipolar disorder looks like. And half the men that I've worked with, at least, are not actually mentally ill. See, mental illness means a pathology of the mind, which means that the mind is malfunctioning. Most men that I work with, their mind isn't malfunctioning. They genuinely have a life that is no longer worth living. They're looking at things and objectively realizing that there's no way out of this situation. So they turn to suicide. So I know it's kind of like a very controversial statement, but I think that's what my clinical practice has shown, and there's some research to even back that up. So if we sort of look at what's going on with men, we're sort of they have nowhere to turn to. And the number one thing that correlates with it is not mental illness, but is a sense of thwarted belongingness. So this is kind of like multivariate regression analysis. But basically what happens is what causes people to kill themselves is they try to connect with others and they get rejected. So it's specifically a very specific research term called thwarted belongingness. So I try to belong to a group, and that group, or multiple groups usually, will thwart my attempts to join the tribe, to join the community. And this is what actually correlates a lot with suicidality. So what's going on with men right now is that we really don't allow them to suffer, because then you're not manly. And we're so externalized with our attention that we're not connecting with ourselves. And so we're looking to other people to tell us what it means to be a man.
Okay. So I thought that was really interesting. Speaking on the fact that a lot of the people who are not, who are often themselves aren't mentally ill, which sounds kind of counterintuitive because most people assume if you're going that far to do something that extreme, you must have something broken in your brain. But I mean, it's actually even depression. Sometimes people think depression is always like a mental illness thing. It's not. Sometimes depression is just born out of circumstances that should make you depressed. Like you lose your job, you don't have a mental illness. You're depressed because your circumstances are depressing. And people can't sometimes separate those two things. They think that the symptoms that are arising from real life circumstances are always born from that. But like, no. Losing your girlfriend or your partner after a long time of being together and being severely depressed of that's not mental illness. Right? You don't have some pathology. You have circumstances that make your life incredibly difficult. The symptoms can seem very similar.
100%.
But the pathology, like why you get there, is completely different.
There's a difference between circumstances and chemical imbalance in your brain.
Sure.
It's two different things. Yeah, definitely.
One thing that he said that I thought was interesting, he mentioned the term thwarted belongingness. And I ended up reading up on this quite a lot because I was interested in it. And I think he said something about multivariate regression, so maybe that's what he was referring to. But it's not actually just thwarted belongingness. Thwarted belongingness is the idea that you try to belong to a group or try to belong to somebody and your feelings are rejected or not reciprocated in a way. You're in a relationship with somebody and you're constantly trying to shower them with love and things like that, but it's not reciprocated. A father who tries to connect with his the mother of his child and the children and can't. They can sometimes feel a tremendous sense of thwarted belongingness because like the one thing that they really want to belong to, which is his family, they have a hard time connecting. But it's not just that. What ends up happening is there's like three things. There's perceived burdenlessness. When you're a burden, the idea of being perceived as a burden, okay? That's the term. I can't say it. Burdensomeness. Okay, it's a really hard word.
Burdenness?
No, burdensomeness.
Burdensomeness.
Yeah.
God damn.
Burden.
They just adding extra.
Burdensomeness.
Yep, you're burdensome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is why I don't got a degree. Anyways.
Amen.
Okay?
Amen.
High school dropout.
Amen.
I can read, but I can't pronounce everything.
Amen to that.
Now, This is basically the idea that you are a burden to others. For a lot of people, that can lead them to a severe depressive state where they feel like my parents think I'm a burden because I still live at home and I don't have my degree. My partner thinks I'm a burden because I don't have a job and she makes all the money, or vice versa. Or I can't give my partner any kids because I'm bare. So there's a sense of burdensome that you feel towards the other person that can put you in a severe depressive state. But even these two, in conjunction with each other, actually don't lead to offing yourself. It actually takes a third factor, which is probably the most important one, and this is hopelessness. When you combine those things with hopelessness, there's a huge correlating factor with that and self-deletion. So I thought it was super interesting because in thinking of some of the people that I personally know who've taken their own lives, those three, or have attempted to, those three factors were very much there. They're like, why am I even here? I'm a hindrance to others. They don't want me around. And I don't see this changing. It hasn't changed in so long. I should just off myself because it's logical. Now you watch, he's like, that's never a logical choice. But I want you to understand, you're seeing it from your perspective. I'm trying to see it from theirs. For them, it is a logical decision because they've met those three factors. They don't want me around. I am a burden to them, so I make their lives worse by being around and breathing the same air. And this isn't going to change. Once they meet those three factors, they decide, no mental illness. Here's what's funny. This isn't a new thing. You know, in African folklore, they often talk about how old people, when they pass a certain age, okay, they are given their final hunting tools and sent off into the jungle to hunt one last time. And the reason why this is in folklore is because they don't want to be a burden on the younger tribe. They don't have the means to be able to provide for them, and they're too old, and so they're going to go hunt as a way to, have some honor or whatever it is. But really, what's just happening is that there's no hope for change. They are a burden to the tribe, and they're being ostracized because they're, taking away from the food storage, whatever it might be. And so that's the process. And you realize this concept isn't new. This has been around for a long time, and it makes sense why in a lot of cultures where people do take their own lives, quote unquote, that these three factors are often met. But anyways, this is me just pulling from my own anecdotes and some of the stuff I've seen through history. But I thought when I read this study, it was really...
Yeah, it is. It is, but it really does happen. Being a burden to someone... Those three things that you stated is really what it is, and the state that can put you in. And this is not a promotion of self-deletion or anything like that. It's just that you have to understand to be able to help those people. You need to be able to comprehend where they're coming from and what they're living.
Yeah.
Right. If you just say stuff like, "Nah, but it's okay. It's gonna be all right." It's without even understanding what they're feeling and where they're coming from. You're not helping. You're not helping because adding on top of the feeling of hopelessness and being a burden. Now I'm just not understood. So you're just adding more reasons why.
Go ahead.
I remember I was talking to a friend that was talking to me about their feelings about
self-deletion.
Mm-hmm. And like that person went through all their friends and it was the same thing. This, that, and this and that. And you'll see basically what they were saying is have a glass of water, it shall pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The equivalent of that. And I think I was the only one that said to that person, and I'm not a specialist and I wouldn't recommend, but at that time I said, you have the right to feel the way you feel. It doesn't mean that you're right. But I understand where you're coming from and why you're feeling that way. You have the right to feel that way. Now, you should, and then I directed them to a professional, because I ain't no professional. I ain't no people I ain't Ghostbusters. I'm not the one that you should call and stuff like that. This is above my pay grade and my education. Understand? And my capacities. So.
I mean... partially true, but not at the same time.
Yes, but I'm not going to be, like, there's so much I'm going to be able to do.
Fair.
I can only direct you to a right direction and tell you certain things. I'm not going to take it on to me to be like, I'm going to be saving you. I can't.
No.
I can't. I don't have the tools. I'm going to do what I can to do the best I can with the capacity.
What does that look like? That's what I'm asking.
What does it look like?
Yeah, what does it look like? Because
sometimes it's just you shutting the fuck up. It's you shutting the fuck up and listening to the person, really listening. And then when there's a sign, it's like, okay, but like, how does that really make you feel and why you feel like that? Try really to comprehend the thing, not trying to understand what they're listening to have a rebuttal to make them change their mind. Like, you try to go about it like every time we're arguing. I'm not trying to arguing to change your mind. I'm trying to argue to have my point there.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not trying to change your mind, that I can't. I don't have the capacity to change your mind. But let me just talk how you feel, because I don't feel it's right, and I understand where you're coming from. Trust me, and have a real conversation. And the conversation is not just me cutting them off or just like denying everything that they're saying. It's me listening to what they're saying and be like, okay, well, those feelings are real. You're not crazy. You're feeling something, and then reassuring that. And understanding the person is feeling real feeling is that thing is real. But then again, I'm not going to take it on to me to be able to change your own pattern and change everything. Because now after that, if shit goes south, then the guilt is on me. And then the guilt is going to be tremendous and stuff like that. That's why I'm going to be able to direct you to the right path. And I know professionals that are going to be able to help you. So I'm going to direct you to that. But, I mean, I'll give you the ride there.
Sure.
And I'll be there to listen, and I'll be a lending hand. But I'll be like, yeah, this is who you be able to talk to. So that's what it sounds like and what it looks like.
To come back to the three things that were brought up earlier, I've known people in my life who were incredibly depressed and, you know, had ideations of self-deletion. And for them, like, sometimes just getting a job that they enjoyed changed everything. Because they no longer felt like a burden. They could contribute financially. They could change a lot of things.
And they have joy when they wake up in the morning.
You know, very small changes can have huge impacts. Now, it's not to say that these problems are small. They're not. But it's just to say that sometimes people are really living lives that, if they kept living that way, would be not worth living. And so it's not crazy to not understand where they're coming from. You know? And I think that one of the worst things you can do when someone is telling you, like, you know, my child rejects me, my work is unfulfilling, this and that, it's just like, oh, it's going to pass. Like, what, am I just supposed to endure this? For how long? Do you know? I don't know, but it's going to pass. That doesn't help. That makes you feel hopeless because you've already been enduring it for so long. So just be careful in just trying to brush over the problems and think that everything is going to heal with time, because we have enough self-deletions to realize not everything does heal with time. Okay?
No, it's what you do in that time that heals it.
Some other things that I thought were really interesting in my research for this is social media is heavily correlated with self-deletion. And you start to realize that people's perception of their own lives and their ability to connect with others is heavily impacted by their social media use and affects them greatly, be it from a content creation standpoint or just from a viewer standpoint. Sometimes viewing everything through the lens of, like, how do other people live their lives? And like, oh, everyone else appears to be happy. Everyone else I see on social media is taking the perfect pictures and their bodies look amazing and all this stuff. And it starts to mess up with your own self-image and your own relationship with your mind and the people around you. So social media was a huge factor, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone, but a lot of studies are now backing that up.
Yep. Right. I can see it, especially at a young age.
Yeah.
Being exposed to that when you're young, like, you don't really have all the tools to comprehend what's going on around you. You don't have all the tools to decipher everything. I remember my sister being like a library rat. She's always reading books and stuff like that. And my dad has a bunch of books. He has a bunch of books. And I remember my sister going through his office and trying to rummage through the books and trying to find something. And she was very young, and she fell on the book called Roots. And my dad saw that my sister was reading that, and he was like, ooh, this not for you. This not for you now. You cannot be exposed to that, because there's a lot of things that you're not going to be able to decipher and not going to be able to understand the context of certain things. And it might change the way you view life and view others around you. You should not read that book now, but you have other books that you can read. It's the same thing with social media. There's some pages that you should not have access to because you're not going to be able to decipher certain things. Same way for lyrics. Same way for why you have PG-13 on certain movies and stuff.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Go ahead.
I don't think there's an age at all where social media is good for you. I see old people on Facebook, and social media is horrible for them. I honestly don't think age, like, I think for young people, they may be more vulnerable, maybe. And I think you can maybe that argument. But even for people in their 20s, they're constantly looking at everyone else with their social, like, why do you think these women are constantly having those issues with their self-body and everything like that? That's social media.
I agree, but it's worse when you're a kid and you cannot decipher. I'm not saying that it's better when you're an adult, but at least when you're an adult, you have more tools than the kids. I'm not saying that it cannot affect you, but it's definitely worse when you're a kid. Now,
Andrew Tate. People talk about his effects on young kids. Was there a difference between his effect on adults? I said it before. Feminists and society in general never gave men good messaging on how to live their lives and how to lead their lives. And here comes these guys who say, hey, we know your life is shit. Do something about it and give you actionable steps. That's always going to be more appealing than the other side.
those groups are answering the first part of the video, right? Where they are answering a problem, which is people not feeling like they belong. And those crew, the Tates, the Met-Gal, the Red Pill, answer to that first part. Oh,
the belongingness.
I got a group that accepts me.
Yeah.
So, and because that group accepts me and they're the only group that accepts me, no matter what garbage you're feeding me on top of whatever truth they're saying, because there's something that are based in truth in what they're saying, they accepted me.
Yeah.
So now I owe them my life.
Yeah.
And I pledge allegiance to the flag of.
Yes,
But
I get you.
but it is what it is, and because they kind of saved me, which in some kind of way they did, all the other toxic stuff that they're spewing on me, well, at least they saved me, so I don't care about what you say about them.
Yeah, fair. I actually agree with that. I think that's a great point. To come back to the original point, well, I think what is being discussed right now is really important, is sometimes we brush off self-deletion and everything under a mental illness. Something's just wrong with your brain, not recognizing there's real-life circumstances that lead people there. And I think it's a good thing in a way, because once someone's mentally ill, most society just puts it aside, like, give them the medication, that's it. But now, once we understand it's circumstantial, it's something a lot different, it's cultural, it's our way to connect with other human beings that is really impacting these decisions. We have more control over that. We have more influence we can exert over others. It's not going to be fixed with a pill, but it can be fixed with other circumstantial changes. So to me, even though this might sound really dark, I actually think it is a red herring, where it's like, there are things that you can do to change that. And in the people I know who've had self-deletion ideations or thoughts of that, they were able to change their circumstances and come back from that place. So that's what I think. Not entirely a bad thing. Thoughts?
No.
All right. Well, this topic came up from our Reddit. So if you guys want to be able to post stuff that we want to see, then go to our Reddit, leave stuff there. Also, we're discussing all these topics in our Discord, so go check that out too. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. We want to hear from you.